Hey dolls, welcome to Pinkie's podcast. This episode may contain some naughty language, so if you're a delicate doll, bye bitch. But before you go, please hit like and subscribe. Thanks, honeys. Hi guys, welcome back to Pinkie's podcast. I am in awe. I am honoured to have my guest here today. She is a nurse. She is an activist. She's an advocate. She is a freaking survivor, honey. She is just incredible. And I cannot believe you're here. And I'm so glad that I found you. And it is Emma McAnally. Thank you so much. You're just, honestly, I was like, so how we met? We met online. I found you online. Yeah. And I was literally looking at your stuff again last night and I was in tears because you just, everything about you is just out there for the world. Like your story, which is just unbelievable, guys. You're not ready for this. You're not ready. But you just radiate such like kindness and light. And after what you've been through, I can't even contemplate it. I don't know how you do it. You just are amazing. And you're also a mum.
Yes.
You're an incredible mum. And this is the thing that set me off last night was you taking your son to a domestic abuse rally.
Yeah.
I was just like, oh my God, this woman is incredible.
Yeah. Thank you.
So yeah, I don't know what kind of, I was really drawn to you, but we met online. So did you find me through?
Yeah, I seen your podcast, your episode that you did with Madry.
Yes.
So I know Madry because when I went through everything that I did, well, when I left my abusive relationship, I went to her for guidance. So,
wow.
And she was amazing. She was so helpful.
And you know, I've had this, so many people, she's so incredible. The feedback that I've had from people that have been to her is just unreal. Yeah. Even her doing the horoscopes, people have been like, whoa.
So accurate as well.
Yeah.
And she's just so
healing.
Yeah, she is healing, but she's empowering as well. Like every time I left, I was like, yeah, I'm a badass. Like I can just totally take on the world. Like she just got this amazing energy about her. And she's just so wise as well. Like,
and isn't it funny because did somebody recommend her or were you just
running? Years before that, I think I had seen like someone tag her, like they'd had a reading, and so I followed her from that. And then like I think a couple of times I'd thought about getting a reading from her, and then eventually when I left that relationship, I was so lost. And I needed something.
And she says that. She says that all the time. Like, do you know what? I'm there when people need me. Yeah. Like they just know. Yeah. So amazing. Yeah. But so obviously people that don't know, they will know when they look at your social media. Because the first thing that I saw was you on STV. Yeah. And it was, and next we've got Emma McAnally, and she is a HIV survivor. And I was like, what? She's living with HIV. And I was just like, oh my gosh. And honestly, it was like the wormhole of Emma then. I was just like watching every single video going, this woman. And then it was like, I want to have 2 children. And I was like, oh my God. And then it was like, and I'm breastfeeding. And I was like, oh my God. So it's such a thing because you are... I mean, tell me if I'm wrong, but you're trying to educate people.
Yeah, I think that's why, well, I do what I do because I want to raise awareness. Like, I never in a million years thought this is something that would impact my life. Yeah. So it's just to make other people aware. Yeah. Do you know, I think when I left, like, I remember thinking to myself, like, you know, I'm living with this illness, condition, I don't know what you want to call it. I'm living with this condition that probably most people would think like your life is over, right? Yeah. So for me, that was a big reason why I never left for a long time, because I just thought like no one's ever going to want me, like that. Yeah. You know, I'm just not ever going to be. If I leave this relationship, I'm never going to be in another relationship, right? Bless you. So when I left that, it got to the point where I was like, I don't care, because actually I don't want to raise my son in this environment. Yeah. And so when I would meet with other survivors, because I used to go to a support group, which was amazing as well. Yeah. Really helped me. I was meeting other people who were maybe like struggling to get out of those relationships as well, or they had maybe left. And I just remember thinking like, you know, I left that thinking that I was never going to get out. So my thinking was like, I want to share my story so that other people know
you can
can do this.
Yeah.
Like, I thought I wasn't going to, and I really had a reason that was holding me back from leaving, but I got out, and now life is amazing. But it then kind of became like, I need to share this other part of my life because I want other people to know they're at risk from this. And like, it's not, I make it sound like, oh, you're at risk, like, but you know, it's so treatable now as well. And this could be, HIV could be eradicated by 2030. That's the goal set by the government. If everyone got tested, and the sooner you find out that you have HIV or you're HIV positive, then you can start treatment, and it means that you can live a long and healthy life.
Wow. So, but see, even people like looking, because I mean, you know, they need to go way back, and there's little hints of what's happened to you throughout your life since your diagnosis. But even like before, because people are nosy, they want to know everything. But like your story is just so unbelievable. And this all happened when you were 27.
Yeah. Oh, I was diagnosed when I was 27.
Oh my God. And it's just, I can't believe you're sitting here now. You are just so inspirational and incredible. Like, you need to know that, because you will literally be changing lives every single day just for having a social media presence.
Thank you.
But I do think people they're going to be like, so hang on, how and why? Like, why did this happen? So you'd started a new relationship. It was somebody who you'd met at school, wasn't it?
Yeah, someone that I knew from school, and obviously hadn't seen each other in years, and then just again through social media. Social media can be good and bad. But met through social media, and then because we had both come from previous relationships, he had suggested getting tested. And
so he suggested that.
He suggested it.
Okay.
So I was like, that's
control level 1.
Yeah. So I went and got tested, but obviously at that point everything was fine.
And you'd already had a sexual relationship at this point. But protected.
Yeah, so this was kind of like, well, let's do this so that we can decide if we can have unprotected sex. So I went and got tested. He didn't. He made up an excuse like the clinic was busy or something like that.
Of course he did.
But obviously me being like naive, but I know we've talked about like being, you're in love, and loads of people say that to me, but you're in love, and
it's not just love.
It's
control.
So I just thought like, oh, I'm fine, and like, you'll be fine as well, so we'll just do this. But it was very apparent, like almost immediately, that everything was not okay. Because after having unprotected sex, I then contracted genital herpes. So and I really like, even that, I think I feel like more uncomfortable talking about that than
I know what you
HIV
mean.
But it's so interesting, because since sharing that, I get loads of girls messaging me saying like they are living with it, and it's so debilitating. And actually, I remember at one point, like it was horrendous. It was like every time I had unprotected sex, I would have an outbreak. It was awful.
God.
And I remember thinking like, how can I live like this the rest of my life?
But people are going to be concerned now, because they're going to think, is herpes linked to HIV?
So actually, there is links, like where. So I think from what I read, so I'll tell you a little bit about what happened actually, because after that had happened quite a number of times, one night I got a phone call from my ex-partner saying, I think I'm HIV positive. And my reaction was, well, if you think that, go and get a test then. But I wasn't worried about it. And then I started to think, well, why is he thinking that?
But he wasn't your ex-partner at the time. This is your partner.
He was my partner at the time.
This is your partner
at the time. And so I Googled, like, HIV and genital herpes or something like that. And there is links. So I think what's happened is that because he has been HIV positive, and then I've had, so genital herpes lies dormant in your system. So I think like when they do
it's
autopsies,
like cold sores.
90% of people have herpes like lying dormant
in their body.
And so it takes for something, I think, to then
cause an
trigger it, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's how that had happened for me. So it's quite possible that I've had that, all my life, and this has triggered it.
Yeah. The herpes. Yeah.
Yeah, the herpes.
Yeah.
So, and it's so common, like loads of girls message me and they're like, so So that's where I think that they're. So I'm not saying like if you've got genital herpes, like
you've got HIV.
You've got HIV, but it can be, I suppose. Well, looking back for me, it would be like a warning sign that something was wrong. But then I had actually then gone to my GP and said, you know, I think I'm HIV positive, and she said, well, if you think that, go and get a test. But even at that point,
they didn't do this at the GP either.
No.
See, this is what drives me insane. Like, it's a general practice.
I know.
It's like, no, you have to go to an STI clinic.
Yeah.
Now, this is what stresses people out, because they go in there and they think, everyone is looking at me. Everyone thinks I'm a slag. Everyone thinks this and that. And you almost want to walk in there with a sign on going, in a serious relationship.
I know, right?
Do you know what I mean? But it's like, why do they do that to people? I just think, generalise it. It's a general practice.
I know.
Have these tests in your GP.
I know.
I'm on my soapbox now. But
I know,
do you know what I mean?
agree. And I think that more, it's quite like inconsistent. I think some GPs do offer that now, and then I don't know. I don't think
sometimes
that they all
they just
do,
don't
but
have the tests.
Yeah.
And it's
whereas
like,
the tests are so accessible now, you can get them for free online. Like there's no reason why you shouldn't have them. You can do a finger prick test and find out in like minutes, seconds if you're HIV positive.
People might not know that.
Well, there you go.
So see young people that are thinking, I've got to go to an STI, I'm not going to an STI clinic. My
No,
mum's
you can order
friend
it
might
online.
see me, somebody might see me. Get it online.
If you go
babes.
to the Terence Higgins Trust website, you can order them for free online.
Right.
So
That's
no one
so
needs
good
to
to
know.
know.
No one needs to know.
Nobody needs to know.
But yeah, so at that point, I did I wouldn't have had HIV.
Okay.
Because it was, so this was like about April time, and then it wasn't until the August that I would have contracted HIV in the August, because I then had seroconversion. It's called seroconversion. So it's like a short flu-like illness that happens when you contract HIV, but not everyone gets it.
Okay.
Not everyone gets or experiences seroconversion. Right. So I suppose I was lucky that I did, because I knew that something wasn't right. Like I was so sick. Because then when I did eventually go to get tested, and I googled like what are the symptoms of HIV, and it said there are no symptoms of HIV, but when you contract the virus you can experience seroconversion, and these are the symptoms that you'll experience.
Right. Okay.
And I ticked every single one that you could get. I had like it was like like herpes outbreaks. I'm sure that was one of them, because that had happened from New Zealand, and it was like mouth ulcers. Like I was so weak. And I couldn't eat as well. And I was in bed for like weeks. I was so sick. I actually, now looking back, I'm like, why did I not go to the hospital?
Oh my gosh.
Because I was so ill.
Women don't though.
No, I know. I was like, it's just like
thing?
I didn't know what I thought it was.
They say that about men. But I think women are just as bad, because we're power. That's it. We just go, we're not going to be a man flu here. We're just going to crack on.
I know.
But it's like, it is a thing where if you just think, do you know what? Don't think that you're wasting anybody's time.
No.
Just do it. Just get checked.
I know. No, 100%.
Yeah.
So I didn't go to hospital. I just powered through myself. And then
he was away at this point.
Yeah. Okay. So after a month of being unwell, I eventually phoned him and was like, you need to go and get a test, because actually I am never sick, and I have been so sick. But at this point I'm not thinking, I'm going to be HIV positive. I just knew that there was something not right.
But
and
he'd already planted the seed of saying he thinks he's HIV. And just to let people know, he was away working, wasn't he?
Yeah. And I've forgot my train of thought there, but I never thought, because he hadn't gone and got tested like when he had said that we both should go. I just thought, like, that was, I don't know, it must be my intuition, because I then said, like, you need to go and get a test. I went and got a test and it was fine, but you didn't, so now you need to go, because there's something not right with me.
And at this point that it's come from him, because he's been your only sexual partner. And that whole year. And you'd already had, this is the thing, you'd already had the pre-test, but you're sitting there, and I know exactly what your mind is doing, because you're sitting there and going, I can't tell anyone because I love him and I want everyone to think he's the best. And if I slag him to anybody now, I'm going to be like, when we're back together, it's going to be a big old mess. This is what happens when you're young, isn't it? When you're younger and you really love somebody and you think, no, I don't want anybody to know that they're like this. Do you know what? Talk to somebody. Have a friend. You need somebody to talk to and you need to listen. See if they're really trying to help you. Just... It's all woulda, coulda, shoulda, isn't it? But really, this is what, you're saying, is that learn from this.
100%. And I think that's why I share my story. Because
totally, and you're amazing.
So that it can help other people, I had a really good, I was pretty isolated at that point, so I didn't have really any
but
friends.
He's made you isolated.
I didn't have my family around at the time to tell them, but the centre where I get treatment were amazing, and if I was struggling, I always had someone there to talk to. So there are people that you can talk to, and again, Terence Higgins Trust, they have like support groups and things like that as well. So there are, if you are in an abusive relationship and you're going through that, there are places you can get help. But I didn't know I was in an abusive relationship at that point.
No, I
didn't know. I didn't know until I'd left, you know. And you know, looking back now, you know, the way that it came about, and my story hasn't changed, but the way I view it has, because I remember coming back, I went and got my test to confirm, well, because he came back and told me that he was positive, I then had to go and get a test. So, you know, I was, even when he told me, I wasn't thinking like, oh, I'm going to be positive as well.
Yeah.
And I was prepared to support him. Like, it didn't change the way that I viewed him or anything, right? Which, yeah, is probably, now looking back, it's like mad.
What more can you take?
Right?
Yeah.
So then when I went to go and get tested and I came back, you know, the one person that really should understand what you're going through, and not just because they are also HIV positive, but just even being in a relationship with someone, relationships are supposed to be nurturing. So, you know, I know now I could, if I'm going through something, I can go home to my partner and he will be so supportive. But I came home that day, you know, in bits, like I felt like my world had ended, and I walked in the door and I burst out crying, and he did not show me any empathy. The response was, well, you knew you were going to have it anyway, so what's the problem? I had no, like, I honestly had, like, I was in denial maybe, but yeah, so it was
These
really
people are
difficult.
not, they're a different breed, aren't they? It's like, you know, when people, you know, watch these shows and they talk about people that have like no conscience and things like that. These people are a real deal. I don't, I've witnessed it. Like, I've had it in my life, and you just think, when you think back, you go, what? Like, knowing how you are now, you would never put up with that.
No, absolutely not.
You just wouldn't put up with it. But then at the same time, it's like, you know, people can constantly fall into these same relationships. I always talk about Katie Price, and that she's just like constantly falling because she wants to be loved. And she believes a line, and I feel bad for her because I just think, gosh, if you just want to shake them. But it's like, you'll think about that about your previous self, going,
absolutely,
what were you doing?
But I know now, like, when I think back to my childhood, and again, if you'd asked me, like, maybe, I don't know, like 5 years ago, like, what was your childhood like, I probably would have said, like, oh, I had a good childhood, like, you know, I lived in a, you know, nice house, I had mum, dad around, my dad worked away, we went nice holidays, and, like, you know, I wouldn't have seen myself as neglected. But after leaving that relationship, it made me really look back and question my whole upbringing and what I had gone through. And so I think when I did experience abuse growing up. So yeah, on the outside, I might have looked like I had a lot of material things and like I was well looked after. I was always clean and tidy and everything. But emotionally, I experienced a lot of abuse. You know, emotional, psychological abuse, and that's really had an impact on how my life then panned out. Because
it's a tolerance, isn't it? And it's almost, and people think that's a weird thing to say, but you tolerate it because you think it's normal. Exactly. You that's know? What, absolutely. It's normalised. So then it impacts your self-esteem. So you feel like, you know, that's how you become like a people pleaser. And you just feel like, you just want to be loved, or you want to fix people. Do you know? I feel like I'm getting therapy right now. But it is one of those things, like when I was in a really bad relationship and people are like, well, what's it going to take? Do you know what I mean? Like, because when you look at other people and they're in that situation, you go, what are you doing? What are you doing? But you cannot see it. No, you can't see it. You're so far in it, and they've done such a job on you, and that's the only way you can describe it. Because people would see me now and go, you have never been put in your place, honey. Like, you have to little do you know. But it took my grandma passing away for me to go, what the hell are you doing? This is enough. Like, enough is enough. And but what happened? Like, at what point? I know. I think because I put up with it for like a long time, and you know, having that diagnosis as well really stopped me from leaving.
I just kept
because
thinking
you
like,
think he's going to be the only one that gets it.
Okay,
Yeah,
so I always felt like, I remember phoning up a friend one day. I think we'd had a fight or something. I phoned my friend and she was like, Emma, this isn't right. Like, you know, and I was like, I know, but I can't leave because I'm going to be on my own, right?
Yeah.
Which wouldn't have been a bad thing, do you know? But like, I just, that's like the need to be loved. And it's like, even though it's not love and it's abuse.
And did you have your child at this point?
Yeah, I think Finlay was born. But yeah, I think I just, that kept me trapped. So then the situation that ended up, I suppose, forcing me to leave was when I was assaulted. Okay. So I put up with a lot for a very long time, and then I was physically assaulted. Okay. And I think at that point I realised, like, you know, it was like a lot. There was a lot more emotional and psychological abuse. So I think,
which is just as bad.
Even though I didn't recognise I was being abused, it was like the things that I experienced. I kind of used to think like, okay, well, Finlay was in his bed, and he won't know because he's young, and
you make allowances for it.
And I think because I was assaulted and he was there when it happened, I realised, like, I'm not going to get emotional, but I realised that, okay, it doesn't matter if he's here, like, this is still going to happen, and actually this is going to impact him as well. So I think people are starting to get this now, but children have always been seen as witnesses of abuse. They're not. No, they are also victims.
Yeah, totally.
So if you're growing up in a household where where abuse is present, you're either going to end up, it's going to impact your life,
of course,
in one way or another. So it's for me, I think that was my wake up call. Was like, I don't care.
It's not impacting on my kid.
Yeah. I don't care if I'm alone for the rest of my life. I never meet anyone ever again. I do not want him growing up in this environment. Like, I need to protect him. Yeah. So I left that relationship, like, truly believing like I am going to be on my own for the rest of my life. I'm never going to meet anyone else.
Oh, bless you.
But I was at that
okay point you didn't care.
Yeah.
Fuck him.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
I was okay with that. But then, you know, as time went on and I started to heal, I really started to realise that actually with my diagnosis I had a lot of power in that, because actually if I met someone and I told them that I was HIV positive and they didn't accept that, then actually that was a good thing, because then I don't need you in my life. Like, I need someone who, I knew that if I was going to meet someone and they understood and they were empathetic and they were supportive,
and they're an adult,
they were right.
Do you know what I mean? Because I think a lot of people, like, again, it's this hearsay. It's what I was saying before about this generational ignorance, because obviously, like you were saying about the adverts back in the day in the 80s, at like Tombstone adverts and things like that, and you just I mean, even watching things like the Freddie Mercury, the Queen documentary movie, the movie, and it's utterly heartbreaking. But I mean, when I was a kid, like 90% of my mum's friends were gay, and it was just, they were dropping like flies. It was like horrific. And I think
it was a death sentence back then.
And there wasn't any Google, so you couldn't, you know, and we were tiny kids, so it's not like we wouldn't know anything. But it's a seed there, isn't it? It's a seed of going, whoa, that's really scary. That's really scary. So I can't even imagine when you've got that first diagnosis, because it's not like you're going to sit there and start really checking out HIV or anything like that. So you're still just going, it's like that internal shake, isn't it? Of fear, utter fear. Yeah. But then you take one pill a day, sorted, babes.
And I know.
Do you know what I mean?
I think it's when unreal. I was diagnosed, like, it was very quickly explained to me, like, oh, you're going to be fine. You're still going to be able to have children, complete your nursing degree and do all these things, because we've got medication now that obviously means that you can live a normal life, a normal, healthy life.
Must have been unbelievable.
Well, no, because actually that didn't matter to me, because I kept thinking, but what about the stigma? Like, I knew there was stigma. Like, in fact, I think I still had this belief that this wouldn't affect me because I'm a straight woman. Like, I just thought that it only affects a certain demographic, right? Yeah. So I was like, how has this happened to me? So
especially when it sounds stupid, but when you're a good girl,
right?
Do you know
and
what
this
I mean?
Is what I wanted to go back to as well, because we, you know, when you were talking about going to sexual health clinic and thinking everyone's going to think I'm a slag, but then I couldn't be further from that. Like, I've never had.
That's what I'm saying.
And I'm not saying that people, like, I'm not saying people are slags. I'm not saying, like, what I'm going to say
experience sex. Right. Have as much sex as you want, honey.
It's so normal.
Make it safe.
Everyone has sex. Your parents had sex. That's why we're here, right?
But I don't want to know about that.
I know. Sorry. Right. but it's true. Everyone has sex, and it's such a taboo thing, right? And like it shouldn't be. So like someone like me, I'd only ever had sexual relationships with people that I was in
the
a relationship with.
Same.
So then there is this thing of like, oh well, you must have like slept around or whatever. No, I didn't.
No,
like I didn't. And so I think that's
one
why,
of the things I'm glad that we're saying. I really want people to know this,
and I want people to know that as well, because I think that there is a misconception about that. You know, that goes back to the stigma as well of like who can contract HIV and who can't. Like anyone can. Anyone can contract it.
Honest to God, thank you for doing this, because I just feel like, oh gosh, you just need to know. You need to know you're amazing. I don't want to get emotional.
I don't feel special though. Like I don't feel like an inspiration. Like I know, like I don't feel like. Yeah, I don't feel extraordinary. I know that my life, when I think about my life and what's happened, I'm like, wow, that's like pretty, like, how's that happened to me? It is like a movie. Yeah. But I'm just normal. Like, I'm just a normal person.
I feel like you could make a lot of money off this movie, by the way. Like, Paul can write it. He's a script writer. We'll get him to write it. But I'm just like, honestly, I just feel like everybody now is going to be like, fucking order a HIV test. Do you know what I mean?
Please, please do like that. And that's why I do this, because it is so important. And the sooner that you find out your status, then the sooner you can start treatment and you'll live a normal, long, healthy life.
And so what was the... Are you right there, darling? What was the kind of barrier way for it to go into AIDS? Did they talk about that to you?
No, because I think for it to go into AIDS, HIV needs to be left untreated.
Okay. For a certain amount of time?
Well, I think it differs, but off the top of my head, I think like if it's left untreated for, let's say, 10 years, around that time. I know there's a lady that I follow on Instagram, and she lives in America. Wow. And she was HIV positive and didn't know, and it developed into AIDS. So she was really like, she's alive, obviously. Wow, and she's obviously she's got an Instagram page. But, like she was really lucky that they caught it when it did, because she could have died. So that's why it's so important to catch it early on, because like your prognosis then is better.
Just do it anyway. Do you know what? Just order it now, guys.
Yeah, just do it.
Just do it. Why not? And like you're saying, they wanted to, so 0 transmissions by 2030.
2030. That's the goal. So it's only 6 years away. Wow. So that means 0 new transmissions by 2030. So like that they want everyone to know their status by then. Yeah. Because the thing is, then if everyone knows their status, then that, you know, this could be eradicated. It could stop. We could stop anyone else from getting it. Like, it doesn't need to be a thing. Like no one. And although it is treatable and you can still live a normal life, but it's like, you know, it would be good if we could just get rid of it.
And that's the thing as well, like you were saying, you haven't passed it on to your children.
No, I've not. No, because I'm on treatment, so both my kids are negative. And I didn't breastfeed Finlay. That's a whole other like story, but I breastfed Fia successfully for nearly 5 months. Wow. So yeah, that was like such an achievement for me, because I really wanted to breastfeed Finlay, but I wasn't able to, and I still have a lot of guilt about that. But it was an amazing
doesn't care. He's a little badass.
No, you think he doesn't care, but then when he seen me feeding her, he was like, how come like she's doing that? And I like you know, I don't want to explain to him, like
he won't remember.
I could just have told him like
in a few years he won't care. He won't remember.
I know, he won't remember.
They're just so inquisitive at that age, so aren't they? Like, hang on. What about me?
I know.
So, and see, like you're saying with the medication, so you just take 1 pill a day, is that right? Mm-hmm.
Some people can take multiple pills, but I just take one. Okay. 1 pill a day.
And are there side effects from that or anything?
No, not anymore. I mean, when I started taking my medication, I used to experience insomnia. Like I felt quite nauseous at first. And
Did you take it in the morning? Or
so I started taking it in the morning. I think because I've changed it, I take it at night now. Okay. But I used to take it in the morning because I used to get quite nauseous. Oh, okay. And then, oh no, wait, I'm getting confused now, because I remember when I fell pregnant with Finlay, it's like I think I started taking it in the morning. Okay. Because the nausea came back.
Okay, so you can't have it and then be sick, because then it's not going to work, is it?
No, I don't know. Well, I was never sick with it, but I now take it at night.
But like pregnancy sick is what I mean.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
No, I know, but I actually wasn't ever sick with him. But I mean, it's fine. Like if I was sick or whatever, like because I've got kind of like I've built up.
Yeah, you built up
a
the tolerance
for it.
Yeah.
Like it's okay. Like I'm sure. And I get tested. I get my blood taken every 6 months. So they would be able to detect if there was something wrong.
Yeah. And so, do you feel like you were saying, the negative responses you get have been from medical professionals, which I cannot believe, because you'd think they were educated, but. How do you feel about that now? Like when you go and getting your blood tests and stuff, do you go to the same people? Is it different, or?
I go to the Brownlee Centre. Shout out to the Brownlee Centre in Glasgow. That's where I go for my treatments. They are amazing. So it's obviously like a bloodborne virus centre. So like they specialise in all that stuff. So I've not got any concerns going there. It's just when I have to go for maybe other things, like I'm trying to think, like so I had a mole in my arm and I had to get it removed, and I remember going and being like really nervous because you've always got this anxiety of like someone is going to say something, like you have to prepare yourself that someone's going to say something negative or false. So stuff like that. But I don't think anything happened at that point, but there have been times where like for example when I had Finlay, and then I was at uni at the time, and I'd taken a year out, obviously, to go on mat leave. And then when I was going back, I had to have an appointment with occupational health. And the doctor that I spoke to, like, obviously had never come across, like, someone like me. I'm saying someone like me, like, he must, because he obviously had this impression as well that HIV only impacted certain demographics, right? Yeah. So then I think he was just baffled.
Shocked.
Yeah. I mean, he actually was really nice, like, but it was,
it was that initial reaction.
This is what I found is like you can have someone who you think's really educated and really nice, and they can actually be really ignorant when it comes to HIV. Yeah. So he, I remember he was like, right, you're HIV positive, and he was like, and how did you get that? And I was like, well, I had unprotected sex, like obviously, like.
But like, what?
I think he.
What?
No. Actually, his thing was like, wait, how did you get it? Were you an intravenous drug user? Like, just assumed that I was a drug user. Do you know?
Oh my god!
And even if I had been like,
yeah, shall I shoot up right now just so you can say, honey?
Right, I know.
What are these people
it was
about?
Just a total assumption that's like, well, you're a straight white female, so this must be how you've contracted it. And I was like, well, no, actually, I had unprotected sex. And he was like, and is your son okay? I'm like, well, yeah, because I'm on medication, like I'm fine.
Oh my god.
And he was like, oh, you take medication? Like he had absolutely no clue. This is a doctor.
Wow.
Had no idea. So I'm hoping, I mean, I was maybe a wee bit standoffish, but then at the end of the appointment, he was like, okay, I don't think you need to come back here again. Like, you're fine. Like, he ended up, he got it.
Okay.
Because it was like, I was having to go to occupational health like every 6 months or something like that.
Right.
Like, this was like a kind of back to work appointment, if you want.
Okay.
But because I was at uni, I think they wanted to see me regularly as I was studying. But when I went back then off maternity leave and explained everything, he was kind of like, well, there's no reason why you need to come here every 6 months because, like, you're fine. Like,
wow. So
he was understanding, but I really hope that actually he went away and kind of educated himself a bit more. There was also one other person at uni, a nurse who, it was like the second day and it was occupational health, and they were doing, I don't even know why they did this, but they were doing a lecture, and part of the lecture was like, you're looking after your own health, like whilst you're at uni. And she'd said like, don't share toothbrushes because you can get HIV. And I was like, excuse me, like I literally was like, what? So I could not believe it. So I was raging, and then I went home and I was like, because I didn't feel comfortable enough to put my hand up at this point, like, you know, it's only now that I would feel like I could challenge.
What was her qualification? Like,
she was a nurse. She was an occupational health nurse. But so I went home and I was like, I need to say something. Like, I cannot like let this lie. Yeah. So I emailed her and I said,
because
like,
it's misinformation. She's peddling that.
100%, right?
You know.
So I emailed her and I said, listen, like, I was in your lecture today. I'm actually HIV positive, and I was really kind of offended by like the things you were saying, because
good for you.
It's false. Yeah. It's not true. Yeah. And to kind of back up what I was saying, I was like, here's the link to 10 Seconds Trust and you'll find everything that you need to know here, right? But you know what the response I got was? She basically like excused all her behaviour. It was like, oh, like, you know, I can't remember exactly how the email went, but I remember reading it and going, are you being serious? Like, it was as if she just kind of like
pushed it back onto you.
Like projected. And I was like, do you know, then I'm left thinking like, am I wrong? Like, is this wrong? And I'm like, well, no, I've sent that link which has all the information in it.
Do you almost feel like you want to have like a kind of video business card where it's you and you sit there and you go, hi, I'm Emma. I have got this from an absolute twat in my past. You know what I mean? And say it like you say it and go, so there you go. Because people just, there's so much presumption in the world and it infuriates me. I mean, it must, because even just saying it out loud, you have got so much bottle, girl, for like what you do. Like, wow. Because you're so like, it's like little cute thing, little cute girl, but you're like, by the way. And it's just so empowering. I mean, you know, I'm so sorry for what you've had to go through. I mean, I've literally sat here crying, but I'm like, it kind of, things happen for a reason, don't they?
No, I
and you had to be an advocate for this. Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, I know. And you know what? Like, things happen, right? It doesn't mean you deserve them, but it's like what you do with that really matters. Yeah. So I do believe like I had to go through everything. And you know what? The reason that I went through everything isn't because, you know, although I'm raising awareness, but I feel like there's more to it. It's like I've really discovered who I am through all this, and I now know what a healthy relationship is, and like, and I'm totally comfortable in who I am now. That's why I can do this, because I really feel like I've got nothing to lose. Like, I don't care if someone's watching this and thinks, you know, badly of me or whatever. Like, I've got my family, and they're all that matter to me. And that was going to be my advice, because when I told my now partner Paul that I was HIV positive, he said to me that the people that care don't matter. No, wait. The people that matter don't care. Yeah. And the people that care don't matter. Yeah. True. And I was like, oh, like that. You've just like...
What totally, a guy.
Yeah, like that. He's just summarised exactly like how that was... Well, I was explaining that to you, that was my thinking before I even got into a relationship was, well, okay, I could get into a relationship, but if I meet someone and they're not accepting of this, then like they're not deserving to be a part of my life. But if they are, then that's great. That's a bonus. So, and he really was that person. And then he said that to me, and I was like, yep, that exactly. Like, it does not matter what anyone else thinks of me, because I've got him, I've got Finlay, I've got Fia, I've got, you know, my family, my mum and everyone. And so I don't...
I mean, they
really
must have been so worried for you, and so, because like I say, it's a generational thing. I do feel like, because like we were saying, you know, like the younger generation and us, it's all more open, accepting, and let's talk about it. And you know, it does go to another level of people take it to major extremes now, and it's like, oh, boo for me, and you're like, have you met Emma?
Oh, thank
and what she's had to deal with.
Thank you.
But I'm like, do you know what I mean? I think it is changing, but I mean, your family must have just been like, oh my goodness. Yeah. Like, what?
But I think you're right when you talk about generational. Like, when I think about when I told like my brother and my sister. So I'm the oldest. My brother's 2 years younger than me. My sister's 8 years younger than me. Okay. And like, neither of them like batted an eyelid. You know, especially my sister. She's like so like, yeah, whatever. Like, you know, they didn't really care. Whereas my mum was like, oh, Emma, like, I didn't tell her until after I'd left, like, a long time after I'd left. Wow. And she was like, oh, Emma, like, why did you stay with him? And I'm like, Mum, that's not the right thing to say.
No, I know.
That's not the right thing. But,
that's a
like,
mum, though, isn't it?
That's, do you know, and that is, and that's that generation. Like, how could you have stayed in that situation? I'm like, that's total victim blaming. But anyway, Mum, like, that's another story.
Yeah. But they don't, the thing is, they think that, because I've watched something the other day and it was about this mother, and she's saying, look, even when they're like 40, you're still going, oh my God, are they all right?
Of course,
I don't have any kids. I could not cope. Like, I literally I have a chihuahua and that is enough, right?
Yeah, that's enough anxiety.
I am so psycho. I would be like phoning on, oh my God, are you all right? Do you know, like...
I know, but when you do have kids, like, I remember when I was pregnant with Finlay, and I knew really early on, I think I was like 7 weeks pregnant, and I'd said to someone, like a colleague in work, like, oh, like, I'm pregnant, and I was, and just, and I was talking about like my scan, and I'm nervous, I'm anxious, I just want to get to the scan because I just want to know that everything's okay. And she was like, girl, that's like the start of your worries. Like, this is just the start of it. It's going to be another worry after that, and it's just going to be the rest of your life is just going to be one worry after the other. And it's so true. It is. You just worry about them all the time.
It's unbelievable. And you're actually a mental health nurse, aren't you?
Yeah.
So that must have really helped you as well then, just to be...
Yeah, do you know what? It's so weird, because I remember when I was training and I was meeting a lot of people that were like maybe in abusive relationships. And it's so weird because then looking back, like you go, like I could see it and I really felt for them and wanted to help them and did not realise that I was going through that myself.
Yeah, wow.
But I think that's like the seeds were being planted where like I was starting to sort of realise things.
Yeah.
Because it was, I was literally 2 weeks before the end of my nursing degree. Like I had 2 weeks until I qualified when I was assaulted.
Wow, okay.
So I really feel like, that gave me drive as well because I was like, I need to finish this because I need to be able to be independent and provide for my son.
And this is your new start.
Yeah.
This is, wash that off. Done with that. This is your new start. Yeah. How amazing.
Yeah.
Just like, gosh. You are just incredible, lady. You are incredible. But as well, like, so see with your son, so we talk about like the domestic abuse side of it. And what are you, I mean, obviously everybody worries about their kids. We've just said that. Yeah. But see, with your son, because obviously he's a son with your ex-partner, it's so hard as a parent, it must be, to just instill for them not to be like the other parent.
Is probably one of my biggest fears is like I am trying to do everything within my power so he doesn't end up being an abuser. Like I know like I'm or abused, but there is like a higher chance with men because in the past men were told not to feel their emotions, big boys don't cry and man up and all the rest of it. So that is like, from what I have read, I feel like, upbringing has everything to do with it, and that is probably why we have such a high, population of men who are abusers, right?
Because you're a product of female your
abusers, but but it is kind of more common in men. We know that is a fact. So everything I do, like, if he's crying, if he's angry, it's like angry. It's okay to be angry. Yeah, it's okay. What are you feeling? How are you feeling? What are you feeling today? I'm angry, mummy. Right, it's okay. You can be angry. Yeah, but don't hit me and don't like don't slam doors and don't throw things. Like, talk to me about it. And like, it is worrying. It's so worrying for me.
But he seems like such a little sweetie.
He's a wee soul.
He just loves it.
He's hilarious.
Just loves life.
He's so funny. And he came home from school the other day and he was like, this little girl, she's crazy, mummy. I'm like, women aren't crazy. Women are not crazy. I was like, what's she doing? He's like, she keeps loving me. And I'm like, oh, well, that's nice, but what does she do? Like, she keeps trying to hug me. And I'm like, well, just say to her, like, no. Like, you need to teach, like, everyone about consent, it's okay for you to say no, like, please don't do that.
This must just be going through your mind all the time. Wow.
With everything. But he's funny.
He's going to be amazing. He's literally, he already is.
He is amazing,
I feel like he's my new Halloween pal. Like,
oh my God, he loves Halloween.
He needs to come here and trick-or-treat me.
He loves Halloween. It's like, I asked him, like, what do you want to be for Halloween? He says he wants to be Jack Sparrow this year.
Yes.
But anyway, like, not Johnny Depp, just his character. But
I love
so,
that.
like, he wants to be Jack Sparrow.
Has he been to Disney?
Yeah, we took him to Disneyland Paris. He's been twice, actually, because I took him myself. But I went with my mum and my sister, like, 2.5 years ago. And then we all went back as a family this year.
So we saw Jack in the ride and everything.
Yeah, he's seen him. Yeah,
speaking
French.
Like,
he loves him. He's like, I love that man, mummy. Yeah, no, he's like, he's so funny. He's like, loves dressing up. He's obsessed with like all the Avengers. Like, loves Marvel, Spider-Man.
And I think you've got the best situation because he's got a baby sister.
Yeah.
So I feel like even that teaches a young man to love women and to look after them. Yeah. Because you always tend to find like, guys that have younger female siblings are more protective. Yeah.
And but also it's like, I want her to know, like, she doesn't need to be protected. Yeah.
Yes.
So like, it's quite funny.
Get Frozen on.
Because now, I know, right? Like, she loves that already. But watching them's really interesting because, like, when she was born, babies don't really dance. So he was like, like, why is that baby annoying? I was like, can you send her back to the hospital? He wasn't interested. But see, now she can interact with him. Mm-hmm. So he's now like wanting cuddles and wants to play, but she's like, I don't want cuddles. Like, she like pushed them away and I'm like, yes, we need more of that. Keep going. No, I don't want, like, just keep away from me. So that's a lesson in consent for him as well, because I'm like, she's saying no, so she's you need to listen.
Person. Wow.
I know.
I feel like you're just covering all ground though. You are literally the best mum in the world.
Oh, thanks. Well,
Like,
I don't feel like it. Like, it is really hard.
Because you've had so much, you're going, right, I'm doing this right.
Yeah.
And everybody will go, you know, what's the best way to parent? Like, what are the tips and the tricks and the this and the that? You can only do your best.
No, you're so right, because
You know?
actually, like, this is something that we've been experiencing recently, is like, we have tried to do the kind of like soft parenting thing, and it doesn't really work for him.
Yeah.
Like, and then also like, but punishments are not great. Like, they're not good either. It's so we're learning so much.
Yeah.
Like, about,
Because you have to adapt it.
Yeah, you have to. So you just need to do what works for your kids. Like, and it's great to get advice and things like that, but you just do what works for you.
Yeah.
But it is a total minefield. Like, it's so stressful. It's so anxiety provoking. It's but it is amazing.
So it's kind of a good and a bad thing, isn't it? Because you're so hyper aware of the situation.
Totally, I think that's it. And do you know what? But it's probably, I've heard people saying that it's a good thing that you've got this level of worry, because you're responsible and you've got awareness and you're trying. Like, I'm not saying I'm perfect and I don't get things right all the time, but what's important is like owning up to your mistakes.
Yeah.
So there's been times where I've like just been totally overstimulated and been like, and then I'll always go to him and say, I'm so sorry that mummy was shouting. Like,
but it happens. He's going to be in situations where people freak out. Do you know what I mean? But the good thing is, he knows how to deal with it. Yeah. Like, do you know what I mean? They'll probably be like, oh, Halloween, I want to be that crazy person for Halloween.
And I dress up as you for Halloween, mummy. I know.
Oh, bless him. And the maddest thing on all of this, I was looking at your social media last night. So you actually have, and you didn't even know it had a name, blood injury phobia.
Right.
Now, like, come on.
I didn't know this until...
After all this.
Do you know what? I only found that out like about a year ago, because... So it came from, I was in my early 20s, right?
Okay.
And I was like, no, this is quite interesting actually, because I was also in another relationship at the time, which was also abusive.
Oh, God.
Yeah, but so I constantly was feeling drained and lethargic, and I just, assumed that like I had low iron. So I went to go and get a blood test for that. But then looking back, you're like, well, it's probably the situation that you were in that was draining the life out of you.
Yeah.
So I went to get a blood test, and I'd never had one before. And the nurse took my blood, and I don't even remember that part of it, but I remember turning round and seeing the vial of blood on the desk, and I just passed out. But I didn't just pass out. I had a vasovagal attack. So it's like when you...
Oh my God.
It's like when your blood pressure drops and then your body kind of starts to shake. But when
So it's almost like a seizure.
Right, but it's not, because when I came round, the nurse was screaming in my face and going... You had a seizure. You didn't tell me that you have seizures. And I was like, well, I didn't know that I had seizures. So
She's shouting at you?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So that was traumatic in itself.
Yeah.
So then, obviously, at that point, I was like, well, I am never getting blood taken again. And now I'm in a situation where I have to get it taken every 6 months.
Oh my God.
When I got diagnosed with HIV, I obviously was really worried about having to get blood taken, because I had all this trauma about it.
Oh my God.
And so I ended up getting hypnotherapy. And what came from that was the woman that did my hypnotherapy had said, like, I talked her through that whole situation that happened, and she was like, well, did you get a CT scan when you had this seizure? And I was like, no. And she was like, okay, it's because you didn't have a seizure, you had a vasovagal attack, which is when your blood pressure drops, right? But it does look like a seizure. You start
because
shaking and things like that, right?
Yeah.
So that was the nurse's lack of knowledge then, like saying, but then put this onto me, and then I, was like, when I faint, I have seizures.
Yeah.
So I had a vasovagal attack, and then that was just after I got diagnosed. But then when I was pregnant with Fia, so not with Finlay, when I was pregnant with Fia, I ended up getting I went to see a psychologist through the hospital, because I had a lot of trauma from his birth, and then also had the, on top of like the kind of trauma from getting blood taken and the fear around that. Yeah. So I always thought that my fear was that I was going to faint. Like, because I'd fainted after getting my blood taken, I thought, oh, okay, that's where my fear is. That's why I don't like getting my blood taken, because I'm scared I'm going to faint. Okay. And that is part of it. But then when I spoke to the psychologist, she explained, actually, this is a blood injury phobia.
My gosh. So is it just blood from yourself? Like, could you deal with...
Oh, no.
Oh, right, okay.
Which is so funny because I'm a mental health nurse. I know. But there are a lot of people like me. There are a lot of nurses that are.
My God.
Do you know, there's a lot of nurses
Can you watch it on telly and stuff? Like, can you see bloody stuff?
No, well, I mean, like last night I was watching like a murder thing and there was blood and I was like, oh, but I didn't pass out.
Okay, because it's not really there.
I think what happens is, because I've been in situations where I've been talking about it and it's like the more that I talk about it and the more that I kind of fixate on it, I start to feel funny. Yeah. But
that's so strange, isn't it? It's almost like a vertigo type thing, isn't it? The more if you think about it. Because I think my mum's kind of like that she's like, oh, I've got vertigo. But I think she builds it in her brain. It's the brain, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
It's so unbelievable. Because
I have to give like injections obviously to people as well. So like, but
I don't think I could do that.
No, I know, but it took me a while to be comfortable with that.
Yeah.
And then, you know, I think because you get practice and you kind of detach yourself a little bit from it, because when I started off, and I always tell student nurses this, like, it's okay. I'll kind of talk them through that. Like, I don't want to. I'm like, I don't want to project onto you, but I know that I had this fear about it. So I ask normally, like, how do you feel about it? Because it isn't normal having to stab someone in the bum with a needle. Do you know? So like, I used to when I used to go to inject people, I used to like seize up for it. I'd be like, ooh, like it used to make me feel really funny. But I got over that the more that I did it. But yeah, because it's not normal to do stuff like that. Like, it's not a nice feeling.
Who goes, oh, I know, I want to inject people for a job.
Some people do.
Oh yeah. It's like people that I know. You know, I'm gonna have somebody coming on that does aesthetics, but I'm like, I don't know how they do that.
And but see, I wouldn't know. I don't think I could do that.
No,
I don't.
Isn't it such a strange thing? Yeah. So. A few times you talked about the Terence Higgins Trust. Yeah. So do you do other things with them? Like,
I got in touch with them. It must have been about 2 years ago.
Okay.
They were doing like a questionnaire, I think, about your lived experience, and I thought I'll just take 5 minutes to, like, you know, answer. And then at the end it was like, if you're living with HIV, we'd love for you to get in touch with us. Wow. So I did that, and then that is when all the opportunities started coming in, and like so it started out like because World AIDS Day was coming up, and I did like a couple of interviews with papers on radio, and that was all really exciting. And then last year I got involved with the campaign, the anti-stigma campaign. Yeah. So it was in association with the
I don't feel
Scottish
like I've
government.
seen that on social media. That
have you not?
No, which is interesting because I saw it. When was that launched?
October last year.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So they need to bump that up a bit.
I think
put that on
it's maybe died down a little bit. I think there was talk of like maybe a new advert, because like I thought the advert was great, but what I felt like maybe needed to happen was, you know, it showed stigma, it showed situations of stigma and how that made people living with HIV feel. Yeah. But what it didn't show was like actually like, I know at the end of the advert it says like you can live a normal healthy life, but I think it would be really important to kind of show like the kind of other side of that about like when maybe people have got the education and they understand, because like there's one scenario is like the girl's telling her dad and he kind of pulls away, but it'd be good to maybe show like when he's got a better understanding, because like that like it's not nice, like because it made me really emotional watching it,
and it makes it feel like, well, that's just what you're gonna get,
right? Totally. I do think that's what I thought it was like on, like,
so it kind of needs to be addressed in a better way of if people get education on this, they're gonna be less scared of it.
I think it was a really good start though, because we had not had an HIV advert in like 30 years since the Tombstone one, and where it was like, if you get this, you'll die, you know. Whereas that's not the case now, and I feel like. And
do they ever talk to you about going into schools and talking about this?
They've got a programme where they go into like prisons, schools and things.
Okay.
And I started my training for that actually, but it was just before I had FIA, so I think I got like most of the way through it, and then I didn't get to finish it. So that is, it's kind of been like something that I've needed to go back to. I do need to go back to it, but I've had so much on.
I think you're going to have such a resonance with these kids. Like, I think they're just going to be like, wow, okay, I need to be sensible, you know. And it's not even like, sounds so bad because it's not even like you weren't being sensible, but it's just people need to understand that HIV is not a frightening thing. And that you can protect yourself. You know. But your situation was you didn't even know.
No.
You didn't know?
No.
It's just,
I didn't know.
God.
But that's why it's important now to talk about it, because then we can stop that from happening in the future, because I didn't have the knowledge, I didn't have the understanding.
I just want to hug you all the time.
Oh!
I just feel like, leave her alone. Oh my God. Honestly, you're just amazing.
Thank
you must know that. Like,
Thank
you're
you.
going to make a huge change. I feel like you're going to be the one person that makes the zero transmissions 2030.
Oh, that would be, that would be amazing. Like, and do you know what? I've always said that, like, if I, from everything that I've done, all the campaigns, everything that I've been involved in, like, if I can just, like, help one person, then I know that I've, I've done my job.
And you're just so candid about it, and it's just that's powerful. It really is. You know that.
Yeah, it is. It's like taking your power. You know, I lived in fear for so long. I lived in fear my whole life.
Yeah.
And so to be able to speak out about things that are quite taboo or a bit controversial, it is empowering. It is a way of regaining that control over my life as well.
Amazing.
Like, yeah.
And you must have, like, so, you know, obviously you do your nursing and stuff, and you're hanging out with your kids, but you must have other things that you love doing. I always see you do you do like hikes and hill walking stuff?
Love going outdoors with the kids. Like, I haven't really done a proper we've done a couple of little hill walks, but
can you take me? Because he keeps saying about going, but I need boots and all this stuff.
Well, I mean, you could just wear trainers, but you can come out with us. Like,
because he's terrified me. He's like, oh yeah, some bitch is like this, and it's like, because I'm like, well, I don't know if I could do like mad ravines and stuff.
It depends, like what.
Monroe's
and you don't need to do those ones. Like, I mean, I haven't really done like things like that freak me out. We just got, like, so Paul, my partner, runs a kind of recovery group.
Oh wow!
So people come to that I've got loads of different kind of things going on, like mental health and addiction and stuff.
Yeah.
So
he doesn't work for, is it Connections?
No, no.
Because I've done some stuff with him.
Okay. No, it's not. He's got his own kind of little group, and so they meet up kind of like regularly, like a few times a month. So
awesome.
You're more than welcome. Like, anyone is welcome. Like, it's not, just.
And so is his group online?
Yeah,
like, how's that? What's his socials for that?
His group is Max Colby Recovery.
Oh, cool.
So
you're a power couple, honey. You're amazing. I love it. So I did ask you this the other day, and I forgot. When I first asked you to be on the podcast, I was like, I completely forgot to ask you this. But do you have a random fact?
Random fact.
So growing up, like, I wanted to be a pop star. Like, like, I loved singing and dancing,
honey.
right?
Yeah.
Britney Spears, like, she was my idol.
Yeah.
So I really wanted to be a pop star. So when I was 18, I auditioned for the X Factor.
Did you?
Yes, that's my, like,
so
fun fact.
funny.
Yeah, but I never got through it. Obviously, I'm not that good a singer. I love to sing and I love to dance, but it doesn't mean I'm a good singer. So
well, we can be the judge of that. Maybe we should get you in the studio and we'll record you. We'll get you on a GBX track.
Oh my God, that would
Can you imagine?
No, I can't imagine. That would be amazing. No, but yes, that's my kind of, like, I suppose, unexpected kind of, like,
I love that. Oh, you would never guess.
Yeah. But I've got one. I've got like, because I had to Google. I was like, I don't have any, like, weird facts, like, random things.
Honestly, it's been so random.
Yeah, it's funny, but like, because when I did it, I was like, oh my God, there's so many things. And then, like, what? So the one that I got was so in Switzerland, it's illegal to only own one guinea pig. So if you're going to own guinea pigs, you have to own more than one.
What? Why?
I know. I don't know why.
Weird.
But that's one that came up, and I was like, "What? That is so."
That's like a law. That is bizarre.
Yeah, that's like one of those things. You know how there's laws in Scotland that have been in place since like hundreds and hundreds of years ago, and they've never they've never changed.
Yeah.
It's like one of those things that you're like, that's obviously been in place and just never been, like,
For
changed.
what reason?
I know,
though?
it's
That's
mad.
so weird.
Maybe so they don't get lonely.
Maybe.
Yeah, it's probably is.
because they get sad.
Yeah, probably.
Oh, maybe we need another chihuahua. He's like, no. And so I feel like we've given loads, but tips, life hacks, what are we saying? I feel like the first one is order a test now.
It's
Everyone,
so important.
even if you've just everybody do it. Just
like, we need to move away from, like, sexual health, or, like, looking after your sexual health being this like really, like, taboo subject.
Yeah.
I know I've already mentioned that, but it is, like, you're saying you're going into the sexual health clinic and everyone's going to think, I'm like, no, actually what you're doing is really, you're taking ownership,
control.
you're taking accountability for your health. Like,
and everybody else is.
Right. and exactly. So, and everyone has sex, so everyone needs to like take responsibility for their sexual health.
Yeah.
So order a test.
Yeah.
That's so important.
All I can think in my head is hot fuzz, it's for the greater good.
Yeah, it is for the
It's
greater
for the greater
good. Yeah, and it's for your own good as well.
Yeah.
It's better that you find out. It's better that you know your status.
Yeah.
So yeah, that my life advice, and then what I already told you, just don't care. Like, I lived my life like totally worrying about what other people thought of me. I cared so much about like upsetting people, and actually like it doesn't matter. Like people pleasing doesn't get you anywhere. Like just stop caring about what other people think of you. Live your life,
but please yourself.
Yeah,
in a good way.
Yeah,
and that's what you're doing now.
Yeah.
And I honestly, I just think, I feel bad saying this because I've had other guests on here, but you are just unbelievable.
Oh, thank you.
You are amazing. Like, you need to know. And I can't say it again because I'm going to cry.
I know. Thank you. I honestly don't see myself like that.
I know you don't, but you bloody are.
I'm doing this thing, just putting myself out there, and I enjoy it as well. I love chatting, because now I've spoken to you and you've gone and like you've educated yourself as well, and that's amazing to me. So
and I'll tell the next person. I speak to everyone, as you can imagine. Can't hide from me. And so how can people find you on socials?
So my Instagram is @positivemum2,
and it's TWO. It's not the number 2.
TWO, because I've got 2 kids.
Yes, I love that. Please follow, because honestly, I've said this before in podcasts, I'm like, practice gratitude, be grateful every day.
Oh yeah.
And you exude that.
Thank you.
And knowledge is power. So
yeah, that's true.
Here she is, the almighty power, honey. Thank you so much. You're amazing.
Thanks
for coming.